Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Med School Minutes podcast, where we discuss what it takes to attend and successfully complete a medical program. This show is brought to you by St. James School of Medicine. Here is your host, Kaushik Gua.
Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Med School Minutes. Today we have Dr. Ankur Patel, who is a graduate of our St. James School of Medicine. He graduated really early on when we were still in the Bonaire campus. And today we're going to talk to him about his career path, his trajectory. He's currently the CMO of several organizations. He's written books. He's completed an MBA. He's done wonderful things. And we're going to pick his brain a little bit and figure out how can our current students follow in his footsteps. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Ankur Patel. Thank you so much, Dr. Patel, for joining us today. And before we even begin, could you give us a little bit of a background about yourself?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Kaushik, for having me. My friends actually in Bonaire called me CIA, not because I'm smart to be in American intelligence agency, but I was born in Canada. I grew up in India, and now I'm in America. That makes me Canadian, Indian, American CIA. And then from there, my journey started. I did my pharmacist school from India. And when I came here, decided to go into medicine. And then that's where I did my medical school in Bonaire. So I can call myself the OG of St. James, the Bonaire days. Not a lot of people might know now, but yeah, it was a small, beautiful island. Did all my rotations in Atlanta. And then I was geared towards family medicine more because I more was thinking about taking the patient care as a whole. And so did my residency with University of Alabama because I was looking for an unopposed program where family medicine residents can do more things in a hospital. So that's the reason, I kind of picked University of Alabama. And the best part is my call was from delivering a baby to intubating an adult. That's the training that I got because family medicine were the only residents on call. And I was always passionate about geriatrics and wanted to do the fellowship on that. I think that's where my pharmacy background came in to geriatrics and decided to do geriatrics. And life took me on from there.
Oh, wow. So, just to add a little bit more to your background, can you tell us about, that's obviously your medical practice, but beyond your medical practice, you've gone on to do so many amazing things. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, for example, you have your own podcast, right?
Yes. So so once it got into geriatrics, and then that's where my passion even came out more because in America, we only have 7,000 geriatrician and we need 33,000 geriatrician. Okay. So, and a lot of time, think about it. You have pediatrics hospitals, but you don't have geriatrics hospitals, right? So then I got into more about how you care for the elderly in the best setting and in the current health system model that you have. So after my fellowship in geriatrics, which I did at Eastern Virginia Medical School in Norfolk, Virginia, and I started working on a health system called Riverside Health System in Virginia. Right. And what I started doing there is creating an ACE unit, which is acute care for elderly unit. Okay. And that ACE units were more like how you take care of geriatric population in the hospital. So, we always talk about rehab after the hospital visit, right? I was changing the mindset there and telling that we should think about prehab. That means how can you make the patient walk in the hospital so they do not, get more frail in the hospital, right? So the whole how to take care of geriatric patient in the hospital. But every time I've kind of discharged a patient, I felt like I'm putting a bandage there because I know that once I discharge them, there are a lot of factors that come in place, which is the social determinants of health, right? The food insecurity, can you afford the medications and all those. That led me to a model called PACE, P-A-C-E, which is Program of the All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. And then when I moved from Virginia to New Jersey, I became a medical director of a PACE program. And it's one of the best model of care. It takes care of the sickest, frailest, and the poorest population in the country. So these are the patients that are 55 above, are nursing home eligible patients, and they have 6 to 8 chronic conditions. Right. So these are the sickest of the sick. When you hear about Medicare spending, 50% of the fund on 5% of the population, that's this paid. That's this. So that's how, and once you look at the model of care, PACE, and I highly encourage everybody to see the model, type in a program of all-inclusive care for elderly, it's PACE, or do National PACE Association, Google it, and you'll get more information about it. So it's one of the best model of care when we are talking about the silver tsunami, that how we care for the aging America. And that's what sorry, go ahead.
Could you just explain what the silver tsunami is? Because I just want everybody to know exactly what
silver tsunami, it's a pretty much a buzz media word that we are using for aging, right? So right now, 10,000 people in our country turn 65 every day.
Oh, wow.
So who will take care of that population? And then there's a subset of population in geriatric that there's, somebody like my dad, 73 years old, one chronic condition, fairly healthy. That's a population. But who will take care of the population who has 6 chronic condition, is on 20 medications, and have a lot of social determinants of health issues like food insecurity? So that's why I started this podcast, which is called Keep Up with PACE. It is dedicated to PACE organizations, so I can increase PACE awareness, and this model of care grows. Currently in America, we have 60,000 participants in this kind of a model of care, and our goal is to get to 200,000 participants who can benefit from this. And it's across 32 states now. And Illinois has been one of the states now who will be opening up 8 PACE organizations in the next 3 years.
So going back to PACE, so is this a term of art? Is this something that you coined, or is this a term that was used all along?
So PACE has been actually in picture. Think about it, and we will understand a lot of times. So this was started in the Bay Area by a Chinese group that actually, these are the ones that, they are working, but what about the aging parents? And they don't want to put their aging parents to a nursing home. So what are other models of care out there to do that? And, a lot of cultures believe in taking care of their own. In Indian culture, it's very much similar to that. So these models actually started in the 70s and then grew across with funding like good philanthropies like John H. Hartford Foundations and other good foundation kind of invested and this models of care over the 90s, 2000s evolved more. So we have a National PACE Association now. And then, all states California is one of the fastest growing PACE organizations. And other states are improving. And what risk we are taking here is there are 2 fundings. The federal government pays the Medicare part. State government pays the federal government pays the Medicare part. State government pays the Medicaid part. The money goes in one bucket, and now it's our job to take care of those patients. And the best example I can give is, so now we become the insurance company and we become the payer. And I'll repeat. We become the insurance company like payers, and we also are the providers. So now I don't have to go and ask insurance company what I should and not do on my patient, because I can do what's best for my patients, right? And the best example I can give about is one of my patients was going to the hospital, COPD, was going to the hospital multiple times. I sent a nurse, educated the patient. Patient was taking medications regularly. Then I did a home visit to figure it out. We are missing something. And then we realized that in summer months, patient's air conditioning wasn't working. And because of the heat of 100 degrees was getting COPD exacerbation, so he was calling 911 going to the hospital. So what I did now is paid $500 for an air conditioning, get it installed, and after that, that patient has 0 hospital visits. So think about it. Just investing $500 in patient's air conditioning, I saved $20,000-$30,000, a lot more in hospital admissions, right? And I cannot practice that kind of medicine in real world, right? Because I have to get approvals. This is a best example that I can give to PACE model of.
Okay. So as far as institutionalizing this sort of model of care, what have governments actually done? Has there been any strides forward in providing this sort of a holistic care for the elderly?
Yes, so they're looking into more. So these are the more elderly called dual eligible population because they're on Medicare and Medicaid.
Okay.
So government has been looking, and these are the things that even a lot of organizations are working on to get the more awareness. So that's how PACE has increased so much. And after pandemic, they realized that, nursing homes are getting full. What else you can do to keep patients home in community? So government Medicare is in much favor. We have bipartisan support there. They're looking into expanding this kind of a model. And then the Medicaid part comes from the state, that how open states are. But now we are in almost 32 states. So what happens there is we have enough data to show that how state can save money on their Medicare patients. So those are the things. And by 2028, I think it's a goal to touch 200,000 participants.
Oh, wow. And what are, healthcare in the United States is largely privatized. What are private organizations actually doing? Are they doing anything at all? Or are they like, oh, you know what, this is not profitable for us?
So of course, it's kind of the fine balance comes in, right? So the real world, or right now we are incentivized for fee for service. Okay. That means more patient you see, more money you make, and that's how it is. So it is evolving towards value-based and quality model, but it's a big paradigm shift to change it. So even there will be doctors, they're great doctors and health cares, health systems wants to do good things, but right now they're funded more in fee-for-service world, right? Okay. So they're coming towards, it's not coming as fast as we thought 5 years ago, but they are making some strides there into changing the payment structures and models where we all are on the same page for better managed care model or quality driven models of care.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you, this is going to be on a little bit of a tangent.
Sure.
But the big conversation, especially in every election cycle, especially when the presidential election cycles, it's like, oh, nationalized healthcare, it works for Canada, it works for Europe. But you obviously being CIA, as you mentioned earlier, you've seen these models elsewhere. Yeah. You're working in a system where America typically boasts of having the best healthcare system in the world, and you're in a part of that system. You're a cog in the bigger machinery. What are your views on nationalized healthcare versus privatized healthcare that we have?
Yeah, I wish in America we could have said that, we have one of the best healthcare. Actually, when it comes to quality indicator, we are not. But we can get there. Okay. And yes, I was born in Canada. I have gone through, that health system. I will say that, I have family in United Kingdom who has socialized health. I think every model of care has its pros and cons of everything, right? It's more like with whatever you have currently, how you can make the best out of it. Okay. I think that's where I more focus on. It's not like, let's say tomorrow we change into socialized healthcare. Will that change everything when it comes to my patient's social determinant of health? Means meal insecurity. My diabetic patients do not have enough food by end of the month. So what we are doing there, right? Medication, transportation. So a lot of time, yes, but you still, how the patient will get to the doctor, right? So there's a lot of other things that I don't think one model kind of fits all. Okay. But there are a lot of innovative driven models out there like PACE, and there are different other model of care, trying to figure out what's the best way we can help patients. And so, I wish I had a straight answer, this or this, but I think for us is what's the best we can do with the current state of health system.
Okay. So in your mind, considering, as you said, America can potentially get there, how much effort do you think America has really, or the USA has really put into taking care of the elderly? What's your thoughts on that?
I think they're trying, right? But that's where it comes about participating. Because it's very easy to sip coffee and talk that this is broken and that is broken, but like what action you are taking, that's where it boils down to a lot of time. Because for me, it's like, yeah, this is government is doing this and that. But the thing is, a lot of them, they want to hear, but then when they give out like, hey, give a chance to write back to them about what needs to happen, that time we don't see that much letters going back to the government a lot of time. But one thing about in health system, I always say, and that's where it also leads to the book, right? That I wrote, Age is Just a Number, is insurance company has their roles to play. Health system has their roles to play, right? And they are trying to improve, but the main thing is we are missing one of the pillar is patient's accountability. Right here. And I think that's where the reason I wrote the book. Let government will evolve over time. The insurance company will evolve over time. The health system will evolve over time. But what you are currently doing for yourself to stay healthy and to make sure that you may not even need to use a lot of acute care and you don't get chronic conditions, what you're doing for that.
So, so you mentioned about this book that you wrote, Age is Just a Number. Can you talk to us about that book? First of all, congratulations. I know it is no easy feat to write a book, especially for a person as busy as you are.
Thank you.
So let's start with the book. I have so many questions about this book, especially how did you make time to write the book to begin with?
So this was something that one of my patients and their family member told me about it, because as much as in geriatrics you take care of your patients, it's equally important to take care of your their caregivers, right? Because I've never seen a healthy patient if the caregiver is not healthy. So it's our job to support the caregiver as well. And I have been telling and giving them all these tips and tricks about, what you can do and what patient can do. And everybody's like, why did you put this in a book? And my mentor was my grandmother. She's the reason who I am. And she used to always, when we used to talk about medicine and I used to talk about geriatrics and everything, she used to always tell me that, I used to more complain or whine about my difficult patients or challenging patients, she used to always tell me that, think about, what you will do if this patient was your grandmother. And trust me, you'll find an answer, right? And as a geriatrician or as an administrator, I always think about that if whatever decision I'm making, how that decision will affect if it was my grandmother. And that I can find answers to the most toughest situation. So, I was always inspired by her. To me, she was my Mother Teresa. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I dedicated this book to her. And she actually lived a life till 93 years old. And she had zero chronic condition and zero medication. So she grew up, born, raised, and spent her life in India. So what did she do where the health system is not even close to what we have here? The access to health system is nowhere close to what we have here, but she made it to 93 without any chronic condition. And America is struggling with chronic condition, right? So I tried to show that part in my book is more about, and what she did different was she took accountability of her own health. Walking, every day. She was eating the right thing. She was very ritual. She used to socialize with her friends, right? Those are the things that's needed here. So when we are talking about now, she was doing it, but there are studies out there. Walking 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week, decrease all cause of mortality by 33%.
Oh, wow.
Here you go, right? So those are the things I tried to show in the book about it, that And that's what I was saying before is health system, insurance company, doctors, they all have their role to evolve over time. And trust me, I work with great organization who wants to make the change.
Okay.
But there's also the fourth pillar, that patient's accountability, that what you are doing for yourself to stay healthy.
So Dr. Patel, a question that is just coming to me, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers are going to have, is how do you improve patient accountability? Is this self-discipline, or how would you do that, like without a professional setting?
You're right. So what I always tell my patient is purpose.
Okay.
Find your purpose, right? What keeps you going every day? When you wake up, what is your purpose? And once you find your purpose, the accountability comes with it. And the reason I'm saying that is a lot of patients ask me that, what healthy aging means to me. And I'm like, it's not about me. You tell me what healthy aging means to you. You tell me that what you consider as healthy aging. And I have used those examples in my books that actually some patient was telling, if I can independently drive to church every Sunday and attend Sunday church, that's healthy aging to me, right? Some other patients like, I want to celebrate my 85th birthday with my grandkids in Disney World. And if I can make that happen, that is healthy aging to me, right? So those are the real life examples I have used in the book. And that's where you have to ask yourself, or you need to find as a geriatrician, I try, and sometimes patient doesn't know their purpose. You need to help them find that purpose. And once you find that purpose, that Miss Smith, in 2 years, you want to attend, your daughter's wedding, and we need to do these 4 things for the next 2 years so you can attend your daughter's wedding, and you can travel for that, right? So some kind of purpose you find, and that works for me.
Wow, that's really interesting. So my biggest burning question is, based on your career and your qualifications, how did you get time to write this book?
So, I always say that, I was, it's always, we never have time. But one thing is, we blame that everybody that God has given everybody the same is time. Everybody has 24 hours in a day, and what you do with that, right? So I think I wasn't disciplined. There were some days that when I was writing the book, a neighbor will text me, it's like, oh, let's grab a drink. And you're like, okay, right? Especially during COVID times. But I still tried to keep myself disciplined. So what I did is, after my kids go to bed, I tried to block my 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. To write the book. Monday to Thursday, I'll block that 3 hours at night to write my book. And I try to do that. And that's how, I gather all the information, and every night just sit there and write mind map, pick each chapter, pick what the problem is in each chapters. And that's how I try to, narrow it down to. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So 9 to 12, you said, right?
Yes, 9 to 12 at night. Yeah, because the kids are sleeping. There's no distraction. Work emails, I don't have to catch up at that time. So that was my book time.
But then your career also demands a lot of travel. And it also demands, when do you sleep? Or when did you sleep?
So believe it or not, actually, I am a big believer in sleeping. So I sleep almost try to sleep 6 hours at least every day. But yeah, sleep is very important to me, actually. And then on the weekend, I catch up on the sleep more. But yeah, I try to still sleep at least 6 hours a day.
All right. And so going back to your career, you are currently the CMO of a particular organization. You're not just one, but I believe you're also a CMO of multiple organizations. Can you tell us what exactly a CMO does, and what does that entail for you? How do you become the CMO? Does every doctor become a CMO?
No. So it depends what kind of a path you want to take, right? So I'm a chief medical officer for a company called Tabula Rasa, and we do medication safeties here. So you know how, and that aligns with my background of me being a pharmacist and a geriatrician. The number one thing we look at is people, why they're on 20 medications. Do they really need 20 medications? And we help actually to decrease the adverse drug event, right? So it's more like a lot of things are software based. I do a lot of advising. So one of my role here is more doing an advising for this company, and a lot of other companies that I'm involved with. I'm more like an advisor because everybody, technology companies, wants to get into senior market, but you need to understand what senior needs are. Right. Before you want to get into market. So I advise a lot of company in that way. The other route people can also take is they work for a health system, and in health system, they grow and become a chief medical officer. And some people, might just think that I love my clinical 100% and I would like to continue with clinical duty. So it depends. Mine was a little different career that like I do a little bit of everything because I'm always curious to learn more things.
Right. Okay. And, you also have an MBA, right?
Yes.
So I've seen a lot of programs that have a MD, MBA, dually, et cetera, But you have you've worked for several years, and then you went on to do an MBA. What would you advise all our students who are currently doing an MD and are constantly thinking, I want to do an MPH, MBA, whatever? Do you think that there was a specific advantage for you to work in the industry for several years and then going for an MBA, or what would you advise?
Yeah. So first of all, if somebody's thinking about getting any additional education, I will say always do it. Okay. Education somewhere will always help. I thought MD is good. Geriatrician, started working with the health system. And then you realize that actually what I learned in med school was the medicine language. Now, if I want to make change within a health system, outside health system, you also need to learn to talk to the administrator's language because there are great lot of administrators. I was blessed that I actually can't complain much about the administrator that I have worked with, but their language is different. So how you can speak in their language to make them understand how you can make this change and why you have to make this change, right? Because it's good to talk big things, but you also need the funding to do that. And then no money, no mission either, right? So how you can come up with those ideas. So that's where I decided to do an MBA after I was 3 years in. And I thought about it that, I can't just, if I want to touch more people, I need to grow in my role. Otherwise, I'll be just taking care of this 1,000 geriatric patients and that for the rest of my life. And I wanted to touch millions, right? So that's the reason I'm like, I need to grow in my role. To grow in my role, I need MBA. I would recommend to do MBA once you start working, because then you can actually because a lot of MBA programs are now geared towards physicians. Right. The one I did with University of Massachusetts was with the organization called American Physician Leadership Organizations. And it's specific an organization that you go through them, and that organizations are all physician leaders. Okay. So any students who wants to grow go join that. And as a resident student, I think was free that time. And as resident, it was very cheap to be a member there. And then and it's still not much, it's $200-$300 a year. So it's not ridiculously expensive. So I would say join that. And that's how you will learn how to evolve in that. And then my MBA projects, a lot of things is projects than learning. Right. So the projects that if you are in work, then you can pick up, your MBA, you have a project on finance. How you can integrate clinical medicine and quality combined together that saves money in the back end. Right? So you can kind of do different things and you can make use of your MBA while working and after working, and you will know both sides of it. So I would say that get your feet wet. Once you are a resident, get your feet wet into working 2-3 years, figure out what kind of line you want to go. and then do your MBA. So that gives you a better idea. And then if you want to grow in an administrative role, it always helps because that's where the competition is. Like you will see most of the chief medical officers with their MBAs or MHA, which is Masters in Healthcare Administration.
Okay.
A lot of people now data, right? We cannot make any decisions without great data,
Right.
and a lot of have the analytics program as well that you can do, which is a lot shorter than MBA, and go on the analytics track. It's sky is the limit
Okay.
here that you can do. But I will say that if you want to do something, it won't happen. You will never get time. You just need to start doing it and do it.
And so if you didn't do an MBA, do you picture yourself being in the same track that you are today, or do you think it would have been a different track?
It will take me longer
Oh,
to
okay.
get to that track.
Wow.
It will, because the thing is, at end of the day, in the same organization, they possibly like me, they have seen my work, and I can grow.
Right.
But if you are going into a different organization, you are just a brand new. So think about two applications, that one is your MD and another doctor is MD MBA. It's
Right.
automatically when they're looking at your applications or CVs, it's definitely a weight. And also, so to that point, I would like to add one more thing now. We are still MD first. Our MD is our primary degree.
Right.
Our MBA is secondary. So that's what, if you are very passionate and want to go to like UPenn or Harvard to get your MBA, go for it.
Okay.
But in that case, you don't need to go through those university, because primarily we are still doctors.
Right.
MD comes first, and MBA is the secondary degree. So that's where a lot of residents that I mentor, and if they ask me, I will say, like, here, it all boils down to how much you want to spend too, because these programs, there are programs that cost $120,000 to be an MBA, and there are programs that cost you $40,000
Right.
to. So think about that also, that, when you are doing it.
Okay. And so this is a burning question that I'm sure all of our students are going to have. So as you mentioned, you are a geriatric specialist. There aren't too many doctors out there. How do you become a geriatric specialist? Like, what's the pathway from after MD?
So after MD, you do your residency either in family medicine or internal medicine. That's like the most common two areas. Mm-hmm. And after that, you can, how internal medicine applies for cardiology, pulmonology kind of fellowship, endocrinology. They can apply for geriatrics fellowship.
Okay.
Same way with family medicine, how family medicine are normally doing palliative care, hospice palliative care. They are doing sports medicine. Same way you can apply for a geriatrics fellowship. So there are two good tracks to go into geriatrics. I know this one person actually always wanted to do critical care and did critical care fellowship, but wanted to know the foundation of geriatrics and did a geriatric fellowship and then did a critical care fellowship.
Okay.
So, and it depends too. So it ranges from 1 year. So I always say, if you're internal medicine or family medicine and do not want to do other fellowship, do a geriatric fellowship.
Okay.
Because that 1 year will change your life. Believe it or not, people is like, no, I don't want to take care of old people. Well, you are in a hospital. All your patients will be 65 and above.
Right.
So it's not about not, but you will learn a lot. So I highly recommend for anybody to do. It's 1 year. But then if you're very interested in geriatrics and want to do that, there are great fellowships out there which are 2 and 3 years with Johns Hopkins and other institutions. But then it's up to you if you want to go into academia, research, and that side. Okay. For me, I was more on the entrepreneur side of it. So for me, I wanted to learn the knowledge and start applying those knowledge.
So now the other question is, how lucrative is being a geriatric specialist versus pediatrician, cardiologist, et cetera, et cetera? Where would you put it?
So that is actually an excellent question, right? That you asked. So technically, in general fee-for-service world, geriatrician are the least paid doctors. So believe it or not, that even when you compare with internal medicine and family medicine, geriatrics comes below that. But it should not be like that, right? going by why diamonds are expensive, because it's rare, right?
Yeah.
Why geriatricians are not expensive when we are rare, right? How I said before, we are only 7,000 board certified geriatrician in our country, and we need 33,000.
Okay.
Right? So that's where you bring value, right? So it could be lucrative if you are with the right organization and show the right value, which a lot of geriatrician can. I'll be very honest. I never was into fee for service based off contracts. I was more on the saving side of the contract. That, because in geriatrics, if I want to do fee for service medicine, I can barely keep my private practice going. So, but as a geriatrician, when I use those same principles, I can save ton of money for an organization. Because of like, in a PACE organization, when we are the payer and we are the provider. So think about it. The example that I used before, by putting in air conditioning, you save hospital visits. Right. So that's how. And I think a lot of health systems are seeing the value of geriatrics too. So it depends what you want to do. But also, if it's our students and they want to do geriatrics, I will be happy to mentor them and tell them what not to do when you're signing a contract and what to look for when you're signing a contract.
Wow, that's awesome. So based on what you just said, it depends on the organization. Do you think, like your feeling, obviously your opinion, is this something that organizations can afford to ignore, geriatrics in general?
They're not ignoring, but there's sometimes which is changing now. But when I started, because I did my geriatric fellowship 2011 and 12, right? So when I came out as a geriatrician and a lot of things, health system didn't know how to use their geriatrician correctly. So they were using like, you are a geriatrician. That means we'll set you up with a clinic and you will see patients 65 and older. Right? Like any other primary care or internist will do in an outpatient setting. Versus you can use your geriatrician in a different way. And that's where we talk about the ACE units, how you can take care of the geriatrics in the hospital, how you can build a model of care where you can do home visits and keep your nursing home eligible patients safely in the community and not in a nursing home, right? So there are a lot of different outside the box model of care upcoming that health system realizes that we can actually use our geriatricians differently than traditionally how we have been using them.
So it's almost like there's a revolution happening, a small revolution with geriatrics, obviously because of the silver tsunami. It's a statistical fact. We can't ignore that. People are retiring, people are getting older, and we had a huge boom post World War II. And it seems like if there was a good time to be a geriatric specialist, it's probably now. Or would you say now?
Now, yes, this is the best era to be in geriatrics because a lot of great organizations have done great work, especially with the geriatric awareness, especially American Geriatric Society and all of them. They build a foundation for us, I will say. So I would say even still in my generation of geriatrics where I'm practicing for the last 10 years, I got spoiled because other people did a great job with creating the foundation. I will say that foundation is there. We might be at the first floor now or second floor, but the building is ready to build. So it's very exciting, the next decade of geriatrics. It's not what it happened in the 90s. Geriatrician means, you go and take care of nursing home patients. That's not geriatrics. That's just part of geriatrics. But geriatricians can do magic now in health systems.
Wow, this was so insightful. But thank you so much, Dr. Patel. We really appreciate your time. You've really given us so much to think about and mull over as far as geriatrics. Because I'm going to be honest, we don't really see a whole lot of patients or a whole lot of students wanting to go into geriatrics. And if this is a field that students can potentially get into, I think more power to them, especially as you're saying that this is, it's a revolution that's happening slowly but surely.
Yes. Yes, I think it is with our any St. James students who are considering to do geriatrics. You have my contact information.
Yes.
Feel free to share them, and I'll walk them through how the future of geriatrics looks like.
Excellent. So, Dr. Patel, quick question we talked extensively about your book, but, we've talked about the fact that, geriatric care is not necessarily overlooked, but it's something that's up and coming. Is there a way in which the average Joe, who's not a physician like myself, potentially get involved in this cause, which is also very dear to me because I have aging parents as well?
Yeah, I think there are some good organizations, especially with, caring. Like there are a lot of, if you even Google caregivers organization, because mostly our generations are in that sandwich generation now that we will have kids and we have to care for the aging parents. And that's where the burnout happens the most for caregivers. So, when even you Google your local caregivers organizations, those are the place to go. Also, you can always Google, the AARPs and look at there, because there's a lot of opportunities possibly for, I always say, college students. They can teach senior technology. Okay. So that's something that you can connect. So there are a lot of different ways to connect in this cause.
Oh, wow. And your book, why should somebody buy your book? There is obviously lots of reasons for that, but there is a really driving fact. I mean, if you could please tell us a little bit more about what your plans are with the book.
Yeah. So main thing with the book is I have simplified this book to the max, right? Yes. So this book is for anybody who do not have, how you mentioned, somebody who is not in healthcare can understand what they can do to age healthy. And if you are a caregiver or a future caregiver for your aging parents, each chapter has a caregiver tip that actually what you can do for your loved one. And I think that is very critical because a caregiver who is not in medicine needs to understand. I have also simplified the little tip and tricks about the current health system and how you can still navigate through the health system. And example wise, what you were, saying, like, sometimes our parents do not use technology, but we do. Right. So how can we use those portals and help our parents to get to that? So, this is my book. Age is Just a Number.
Okay. Can you center that? Can you center that a little bit more on the screen? It just got cut. The book. Can you just put the book up so that people can see it? And we'll also put the link for the book on Amazon as well.
Yeah.
And can you tell us what happens to the proceeds?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the book is all the proceed from the book goes to charities that benefits the seniors. And I have picked few charities. One is food insecurity in America. Nobody should have food insecurity. So it goes to organizations like Meals on Wheels. The second organization I have picked is that teaches senior technology, because now the seniors, when they are aging, a lot of healthcare is getting integrated and how they can stay connected to the world. The third bucket is senior loneliness. So how you can tackle senior loneliness, because senior needs to be socializing out there. And the fourth one is more near and dear to my heart, is the bucket list. Trust me, when I ask our seniors what's on your bucket list, it's not like they want to go to Hawaii. I live in South Jersey. It's a big Eagles nation. They'll say that I have never in their 80 years gone to a Philadelphia Eagles game.
Oh, wow. We
make that happen, right? So it's little wish that comes true for them. So please support and spread the word about the book so we can raise more money for the charities.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Ankur Patel, for shedding so much light on geriatric medicine and how to get involved in the community, because this is a field that seems like you don't really have to be a physician to get involved and give back to our parents who basically raised us. So again, thank you so much for giving us pathways and teaching us about how we can be more actively involved in helping manage the silver tsunami, so to speak.
Thank you so much for tuning into our show. We hope you enjoyed another episode of Med School Minutes. If you like our content, please follow us and receive notification when a new show is posted. This podcast is brought to you by St. James School of Medicine. For a video version of this podcast, please check us out on sjsm.org/video.